Good afternoon, MIE. Please welcome Matt Onick, Chief Executive Officer, Mission Investors Exchange.
Welcome everybody to the 2026 MIE National Conference. All right, we can talk about it. Thank you all for being here today. With over 800 attendees and more than 160 speakers in our plenaries, our breakout sessions, and our gatherings, this is the largest MIE conference ever. I can't think of a more important time for the MIE community to be coming together. The impact investing field is at an important inflection point, and the actions we take today will shape the future of the movement. Our members are navigating difficult political and economic headwinds, and the communities that we are all investing in face mounting attacks. It is against this backdrop that we gather for the next 3 days and why we've chosen our 4 conference themes. Number 1, investing and leading amidst uncertainty. Number 2, investing for collective prosperity. Number 3, scaling local impact investing strategies. And number 4, strengthening governance, measurement, and impact. As we think about all these themes, we're particularly excited to be here in Atlanta and in the U.S. South, where our members are actively advancing many of these goals. Atlanta has more than lived up to its reputation as a warm and welcoming host, and this morning we kicked off the conference out in Atlanta neighborhoods, learning from investment and community leaders at our Impact and Action site visits that hundreds of you joined. And thank you for those who were out in the community this morning. Through these visits, we saw the power of impact investing through partnerships with leading Atlanta organizations like the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, the Atlanta Beltline, and Westside Future Fund. These visits demonstrated how the public, private, and philanthropic sectors can collaborate and work together to advance inclusive development, expand access to capital, and promote long-term community resilience. These examples reflect the work that so many of you have been doing for so many years in your respective communities throughout the U.S. and around the globe. This inspiring work is also what motivated a small number of folks to come together 20 years ago to discuss how can foundations use more of their assets for good. Ultimately, those conversations in a small room created the organization and the community that is now MIE. Today, I am thrilled to be recognizing the 20th anniversary of MIE. Now, many of you have been leading this work for 20 years or even more, and MIE is proud to have supported your efforts and the advancement of the field. To recognize what we've all done together, we've prepared a brief video to mark our collective journey. So let's take a look.
So the founding of MIE really emerged from the fact that there was such a small number of us making program-related investments, or PRIs, back 20 years ago.
I think impact investing was considered a bit quirky. I distinctly remember the chair of this investment committee, who had been a Wall Street banker, replying, "Bob, that's voodoo investing. Don't worry your pretty little head about it."
We grew from a core focused on program-related investments, a very foundation-specific type of impact investing, and how we then merged with folks who were thinking a lot about mission investing out of the endowment in most cases, and became this bigger tent that is today called Mission Investors Exchange.
And since then, on the 20 years since then, it has become a field. It has become a discipline. It has become something that I would dare say a movement.
It's safe to say that but for MIE BCF may not be at the stage that we currently are in terms of impact investing.
This is learning how to make capitalism work for communities.
The need and the opportunity for impact investing as a mode of positive change making is greater today, 20 years on, than ever. None of us can reach our goals, our philanthropic goals, our impact goals, if we don't join in with others. We can't do it alone.
There are so many opportunities to engage in issues that you care about. There's also an opportunity to advance the field. So what's trending? What are the new issues?
As I think about the next 20 years, the Mission Investors Exchange community has a huge opportunity to continue to drive the impact in impact investing. As the movement continues to grow, it'll be critical for those of us in the room and around the country to make sure that we're sticking to our original goals of driving a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. And we are able to continue to do this by working with one another, partnering with one another, and helping drive new folks to the field to see the incredible value that impact investing is having in communities around the country and around the world. So it has been a real honor and inspiration to be on this journey with all of you, and I'm excited for our next 3 days together. We wouldn't be here today at the conference without the tremendous support of the entire MIE family, and I just want to thank a few people before we get started. First, our amazing conference sponsors, including the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, the Annie E. Casey Foundation, Builders Vision, MacArthur Foundation, and so many others of you in the room. I also want to give a huge thanks and shout out to the MIE staff and team who have been working endlessly to make this all happen for all of us. So James Walls, Melanie Audette, Nick Almeida, Dan Goldberg, and all the MIE staff and conference consultants, including Marty Balcom, who's been here longer than any of us. Finally, thank you. Finally, I want to thank the conference co-chairs, Frank Fernandez and Lisa Lawson, the local host committee of leaders here in Atlanta, and the MIE Board of Directors. And I want to give a particular shout out to two MIE board members, Christine Looney and Deborah Schwartz, who were in that small room 20 years ago when MIE was founded, and have been helping to lead us ever since, coming on and off the board as we've pulled them around. But thank you so much to Christine and Deborah and so many others who were there 20 years ago. Thank you.
Please welcome James Walls, Senior Vice President of Programs and Initiatives, Mission Investors Exchange.
Hello, everyone. So I had to do better for myself, to have to follow that conversation and then preview our next conversation. Thank you to Surdna and Carla for such an inspiring chat. While centered around Surdna Ventures, we witnessed a story of one leading with their values, building a team, and using the power and potential of impact investing. We also heard the continued evolution of a vision that has truly come to life through perseverance and resilience. Lastly, we've heard the importance of investing in entrepreneurs to achieve greater collective prosperity, all of which our next speakers' organizations strive to do with their assets and platforms. It is with this backdrop that I introduce our next panel. I have had the privilege of working for as well, or partnering with each of the represented organizations in various efforts. Each of our following speakers has worked for years to advance equitable principles and create pathways for greater opportunity. This work includes investing in a myriad of communities, supporting narratives based on actual fact, and providing catalytic capital to seed and scale impactful work. I will now invite our panel moderator, Chen, president of the Surdna Foundation, and fellow panelists to come to the stage and tell us more about their important work.
Great. Okay. Wow. James, thank you. And I want to thank Serena Williams for being a legend, and I feel like she's compounding her legend.
Yes.
She, like you said, Carla, she could have done anything after getting off the tour, and she chose to join this family of mission investors, and it's just so special and impactful. Yeah. I've now heard her speak twice, and she is so substantive, and it's amazing that she has joined this journey with all of us. So, how exciting! Well, I'm delighted to introduce. I'm Don Chen from the Surdna Foundation. Introduce our speakers here. So you've already met Carla, Thompson, Payton from the Kellogg Foundation. Welcome. The Reverend Cory Anderson, who is the president and CEO of the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation in Arkansas, and Ray Ramsey, president and CEO of the Nathan Cummings Foundation in New York City. And welcome. We are so excited to talk to you about investing for collective prosperity. And I think we touched on this theme, because many of the things that you discussed with Serena were about not just doing well for ourselves, but really generating that wealth that others can enjoy. And so, first question I'm going to ask all of you, and I'll bounce around a little bit across the panel here, is what does it mean to you to invest for collective prosperity? And Cory, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Since you're the newest CEO here.
Yes,
you're the newest
thank you. I appreciate
person.
it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm Cory. I'm the president and CEO of the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation for the last 96 days. And I only mention that because this stage and this conference is new to me. Normally, it's our long-term CFO, Andrea Dobson, who was our CFO for 25 years, was part of MIE for 20 of those since the inception. And our long-term CEO, Dr. Sharice West Scantlebury, who actually got us as an organization to where our endowment portfolio, and along with our Cambridge friends, Tom Mitchell, those folks are here too, but to 90%. So our endowment is 90% mission related, and that's work. Thank you. That's work that happened, again, over 15 years, right? And it ties directly to our mission, which is a relentless pursuit of equity for all Arkansans. And I know, not in this room, but in lots of other rooms, equity has become this sort of word that you don't want to say out loud because people are trying to change it. But when we talk about equity, what we're talking about is that every Arkansan be able to earn at least, so minimum, a livable wage. Thank you, we'd like that. Every Arkansan live in a thriving community, and every Arkansan be able to build generational wealth, right? And that's everybody. So that's equity as a goal. Equity as a framework for getting to that goal says that you start that work with the communities, the people, the places that have been left out, disinvested in, and are the farthest away from that goal. And we believe that that's a process that works out for the good of everybody, right? So when we talk about collective prosperity, we're talking about investments that support all Arkansans for sure, right? But we're also talking about strategies that are specific to those people, populations, and places that have been left out of prosperity for the longest.
Fantastic, thank you. And Carla, I'm going to turn to you now.
Sure. So the Kellogg Foundation has been in the mission impact investing space for 20 years. And this was a board directive around how can we use our corpus to make lasting, sustainable change. And over those 20 years, we've learned a lot. We both do mission-related investments as well as PRIs, and we accompany our investments with grant making because we believe in using all of the tools in the toolbox. But it's fundamental to the values and principles that we have as an organization where people can help themselves. And so for us, being in this space was helping communities to understand the opportunities, to demystify what capital markets are, to figure out how they can build businesses and have longevity in those businesses, how they can break generational poverty and really think about long-term longevity and financial stability. But we also wanted to be very clear that in our mission, we know that there are 3 things that we focus our grant making on because those are the 3 things that are absolutely critical to families and the communities that we serve. We knew that we wanted to fund in education because if you don't have education, then how are you going to advance? And so what tools can we bring into the education space to ensure that children and their families have the best possible experiences? We knew that health was equally important, and in many of the communities that we work in, you have to drive 100 miles in order to get maternal care, or you have food deserts and there's no access to healthy food. And so for us, we wanted to invest in that. We also wanted to invest in economic equity because we recognized that working for low wage or having to work 2 or 3 jobs was not ideal for any family system. And so for us, when we entered this space, we said, what is it the communities are telling us, and how can we partner with them, and how can we leverage our brand to ensure that they have access to capital? And so while we did that with our grantees, we also started polling families to say, what does prosperity look like for you? What are the things that you think about each and every single day? And it came back almost universal. We want to be able to take care of ourselves and our family. We want good housing. We want our kids to be able to go to school. And we don't want to worry about what we have to sacrifice in order for our children to thrive. And so that aligns to what we're doing in our grant making, which is why we believe that this prosperity agenda is so critically important, particularly as we see the social networks being eroded and that the social safety net is being eroded. So then, rather than be extractive of communities, because these companies make millions of dollars off these communities every year, how can, in turn, we help these communities keep their money in their communities so that they can continue to invest in themselves? And that's why we're in this space.
Yeah, fantastic. And Ray, I'm going to turn to you. Same question.
Same question. Do I remember the question? No, I'm kidding. Just kidding,
It's right
Don.
there.
I've known Don for a while. Anyway, let me address this first as the CEO of Nathan Cummings Foundation. One, we appreciate having the opportunity to be here, so it means a lot. Second, what I want to say is we introduced the term into our organization a number of years ago that we call the totality of assets approach. And so we really take that seriously, is to use the totality of everything we have and throw it at the issue of solutions. And I was actually recruited by a search firm to come to the foundation as a trustee, and then eventually had this advantage of coming on the inside. And I just want to address the question from the individual part to connect it to the importance of what it means to me as an individual, having been recruited into this space. And a mentor of mine used a term and a frame that I'll never forget, and he said, everybody in this world is given an assignment. And the trick in life is understanding what your assignment is and to go after it. And so I just view this as a unique opportunity to go after an assignment that I have. And so every day it's about throwing in, every day it's about learning, because it's a journey of learning. And that's the thing that I want to emphasize when we talk about prosperity, when we talk about impact, that there has to be the humility that goes with it, that we're all learners. So it's always odd for me to be up on the panel because I want to be out there continuing to learn. So I'm going to learn from the other panelists, and I appreciate sharing this opportunity with all of you.
Great, thanks, Ray. And I'll just add that the Surdna Foundation, 7, 8, 9 years ago, we started our impact investing journey. One of the things that we decided to do back then really builds on what Serena said earlier, which is, you remember when she told the story about when she was hearing someone talk about, the percentage of women getting VC funding. They were getting about 2% of all VC funding, and she thought the person had misspoken. If you add that to the fact that I think black women attract 0.5% of all VC funding, and if you take fund managers, women fund managers of color, and combine them all together, they're still amounting to just a few percentage points of assets under management. And so, that is a shocking figure that I often have to pinch myself to realize that it's actually valid. And so what it tells me, and it's told many of us, is that there's a tremendous amount of talent out there. They're incredibly experienced, talented people who are being overlooked, haven't had the opportunity to manage money, to basically, help these companies thrive and succeed. And so back then, 7-8 years ago, we started hiring them. And fast forward to today, now we have a impact portfolio that has a lot of these fund managers, and they are outperforming the rest of our endowment. And it's wild. And it's a story that we aim to tell over and over again and certainly track over time. But it's just another example of, it's a win-win-win. And it's one of the ways in which we really try to focus also on collective prosperity. And it's not lost on me that doing those types of things is really hard these days. There are national headwinds, attacks on diversity, inclusion, equity, you name it. And I'm going to turn back to the panel and ask you all, how are you dealing with that, navigating, circumventing, et cetera? And Ray, I'm going to come back to you on this, so please.
A couple things. One is you have to still, we live in a society of laws. And so one of the first things, I'm a lawyer, and the first thing I said is we're not going to hire a lot of lawyers. But what I want to do is make sure that we adhere to what the laws are. And what I said to our team is, but we still have a right to believe, and the First Amendment is there. And so thus far, people aren't being hit with that. And what I didn't want to do was oversubscribe based on all the noise that was coming and self-edit, because a lot of the wounds are self-inflicted. And so that if we would stick by our sense of, I have a right to believe, and I have a right to express my belief, but then there are laws that we have to, 501c3 laws with the IRS, the Civil Rights Act, other things like that, we're going to be okay. And thus far, that's what it is. But I had people asking me, and I had people in the press, asking, well, how are you responding? And the first thing I said is, at Nathan Cummings, or anyone who's leading, you don't spend your life and your career as a responder. So don't be in response. So I said, and if it annoys someone on the other side, we're going to try to be more excellent at what we do. So we didn't change language. We didn't take things down. And we continued with our theme, which is racial, economic, and environmental justice, period. And we continue to say that, and that's what we're going to do. And if there's any battle that's needed, we'll be up for it.
Thank you, Ray. I'm going to come back down the line next to Cory.
Sure. Ditto to what Ray said, right? When these conversations first started, we took the advice of folks like Ray and just had lawyers look at all that we did. And of course, as in most cases, right, they confirmed, like, no, you're fine, right? But then after that, we invite people into a conversation, just like I did at the beginning of this conversation. I said, when we talk about equity, here's what we mean. Everybody in Arkansas earns at least a living wage, working one job, not three, right? Everybody ought to live in a thriving community, and everybody ought to build generational wealth. So if you disagree with that, then let's argue about that. Like, let's have a conversation. You tell me that you don't think people should earn a living wage, live in a thriving community, and be able to build generational wealth, and then you defend that to other folks, right? Now, I think there is, if we're doing mission investing or PRIs, like, I also think that if you're not investing in advocacy and organizing, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot relative to the returns that you could be getting, right? Because we have to have public policy that actually supports, the solutions that we're trying to get to at scale. So we can invest in a wonderful jobs program that gets people jobs. But if we don't have public policy that helps us raise wages, that helps us create economic opportunity for communities, that sets a minimum living, like all those things, then we're not going to get the return that we're trying to get, whether it's a grant, a mission-related investment, or a PRI. So doing one without the other, to me, is insufficient, right? Susan Batten at AbbVie, she taught me that some things are necessary but not sufficient, right? Like, absolutely, investing in the program is necessary, but it is not sufficient to get where we want to go.
Thank you. Carla.
And so, if you know Kellogg Foundation, you know our DNA is leadership, community engagement, racial equity, and healing. Hasn't changed, won't change. And so for us, because we center all of our work on children, we ask the question, if children need to thrive, what do they need? They need to be in stable families. And in order to be in a stable family, there needs to be some economic security. They need to be access to good health care. There needs to be education, and they need to live in thriving communities that can provide that. And so for us, we've never operated in a sense of fear. We operated in, let's have the conversation. The healing journey is around recognizing the common humanity in all of us. And when we talk about the work that we're doing, we lead with the work. So rather than go into a debate on the efficacy of racial equity or DEI, what we said, we want to invest in childcare programs because we know that every working family needs a safe place to put their child. And so regardless of where that childcare program is, this is why we're doing it. We invested in care in order to be able to say, what do we know is missing in childcare? We need to rehab some of these places. They're small businesses. These small business women, mostly about 90% women, are the backbone of their community. We're investing in them. Tell us how that is wrong. If we're talking about food sovereignty and food access, everyone needs to eat. We want to keep people healthy. Tell us where that's wrong. If we're talking about workforce development, everyone wants to work. Everyone wants to have opportunity. Everyone wants to be able to grow the security for their families. And so when we lead with the work, we often don't have to get into the debate around DEI because it's something that all of us value. And so for us, it's reclaiming that narrative and telling the stories of people's lived experience so they can have a greater understanding of what does it take to have a thriving community? What does it take to have access to resources? What does it take to help communities build themselves up? And once you start having that conversation, the noise quiets down because it's hard to disagree with that, particularly when you hold children at the center.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to quote Marla Blow here from the Skoll Foundation. So
I was with her last week.
Oh, good.
Actually, 2 days ago.
In Oxford?
Yes.
So Marla was at a meeting, a philanthropy meeting last year with a bunch of us. And one thing she said was both funny and wise. And she said, philanthropy hasn't really had a natural predator.
Exactly.
Nonprofit sector, especially in philanthropy, there's been a complacency. And so if there is a silver lining to all of this, it's that we have been forced to tell stories, like Surdna was saying. You got to be a good storyteller. You got to explain what it means by advancing equity, really doing it for the sake of children and their wellness, and all these different things. And so I take that very seriously. I think there's a really profound lesson for us to be rigorous about that. I also, the Surdna Foundation has also not changed anything. We have been devoted to social and racial justice since 2018 explicitly, and we're continuing our work. We do believe, and this is something that foundations have been doing together, that we all have a right to give, and the complement to that is the right to invest. Being able to invest and give grants according to our missions and our beliefs and our values is not only protected, it's not only legal, but it's also valuable to society, and that's something that we should all take to heart and act on. Last thing I'll say before I go to the next question is, as we think about how we're navigating challenging conditions, I think we also need to have foresight and think ahead a decade, a couple decades, and really think about systemic risk. And I want to give a shout out to the Investment Integration Project, which recently produced a case study on us, and they have written a lot about systemic risks in our society. These days, there are so many. There's various types of inequality, income, wealth. There's political instability, global conflict, climate change, AI, you name it. And getting good at starting to think about how to manage and influence the factors that contribute to those risks is going to be really important as we go forward. So that's another piece I'll offer. So let's switch gears a little bit and go to another set of questions. And give me 1 second here. I just have a little glitch here. Okay, so here we are in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so we are in the South, and many wise people before us have said, as the South goes, so goes the nation. And I have certainly taken that to heart at the Surdna Foundation. When I first got there, one of the first things I did was I asked the foundation to focus on the U.S. South. It is not only a place that has outsized impact in our nation's politics, our economy, our culture, so many things, but it is also severely under-resourced. And I'm wondering how many people here invest in this, are from the South? How many of you are from southern states? Okay, that's a good. So those of you in the room who want to find folks to partner with, go there. I want to ask each of you, tell us about the work that you're doing in South. I'm going to start with Cory because you're in the South.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you work as a foundation that's focused on Arkansas within that context.
Sure. There are really three things, among many, but three things that are a priority right now. One, and Bill Bynum is here, and our other CDFI friends are here, but one is access to capital, right? And again, maybe that goes without saying for this group. But just to remind folks, right? During COVID, who was the group of people that started more businesses, created more enterprises, and maybe sort of by and large saved a lot of our lives, right? It was Black women, it was women of color, right? The data's out there that says that, right? So we learn, and in particular, like philanthropy in the markets, they learn things and then they forget them, right? So we learned that during COVID. Again, with our CDFI partners, we were able to push resources that way. And then COVID ended, so then we forgot, right? So the data has actually come back. We did a study, an access to capital study in Arkansas, and we use SBA lending as a proxy. And here comes that 2% number again, right? All the SBA lending in Arkansas, a whopping 2% of it went to Black business owners, right? And so think about probably 60 or 70% of that 2% went to women. So there's an opportunity there. And a big chunk of that 2% was held up again by our CDFI partners. So we've got private banks, private lenders, private source of capital in Arkansas that have this wonderful opportunity that if they're just intentional about thinking about those populations, right? They don't have to start a new program. They don't have to set up anything new. They don't have to change their credit standards. All they have to do is think about these populations, and you can make that 2%, 4%, 6%, 10%, right? Just by being intentional. So we're pushing people to think about access to capital. The second thing that we're thinking about intentionally is the nonprofit sector in the South in general is outsized compared to the rest of the country. It's a huge part of our economy. And what we're trying to get folks to do is stop thinking about nonprofit investment and nonprofit grants as palliative care for communities and start thinking about the nonprofits as the economic engine that they actually are in our communities in terms of people that they support, jobs that they give, and the solutions that they provide us, and start investing in them in that way. So we've launched a $50 million Arkansas Enterprise Capital Grant Fund in Arkansas, where we're trying to engage our nonprofit sector with these enterprise level investments, right? So we give general operating support. Traditional philanthropy has historically under-resourced the nonprofit sector. And so we're trying to turn that on its head. These are businesses that support our communities and solve problems for us. So if we really want to talk about ROI, that's another place that we can invest, right? Like it's not going to get you 100x, but there are opportunities to get some of that back, but most importantly, try to solve the problems that you say that you're trying to solve. So we're trying to raise $50 million. We're going to put in a chunk of that. Robert Wood Johnson has helped us with this. Walton Family has helped us with this. The Community Foundation in Arkansas has helped us with it. But we're trying to raise that again to do these big enterprise level grants. And back to the public policy piece. A big chunk of those enterprise level grants are going to go to our advocacy and organizing folks because again, without public policy, without systems change work, then a lot of this is for naught. And then maybe the third thing is what I call sort of the edge, I guess, of economic development. So we're talking about data centers, we're talking about lithium extraction, and we're talking about the other thing that I don't even know because it's not going to come for 10 years from now. But really investing in the infrastructure that it takes to turn those economic opportunities into opportunities for economic growth in the communities that they are currently extracting from, right? But you got to have infrastructure. In Arkansas, we've got apparently one of the biggest lithium deposits that's up underneath the ground in the whole country. And I knew we were behind when the company that has somehow acquired the rights to lots of this land, when they set up the community meeting to invite these little towns and these little people in to talk about what they were going to do with lithium. So we had an infrastructure to get ahead of those things, and that's another investment opportunity that'll pay off. It's going to take 10, 20 years, right? But it'll pay off in the end.
Yeah, and it sounds like a little bit of investment goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Ray, I'm going to turn to you. You, Nathan Cummings Foundation, invest all over in a lot of geographies. Would love to hear about your activities in the South.
I am delighted to share with everybody. A few years ago, with our strategic plan, we made a decision and we backed it up with resources. And so we've pledged, and you may not know about this because what I'm not big on is advertising, because I always say just go and do the work. 40% of our assets are now dedicated to the U.S. South. So we wanted to make a very sincere, and then in terms of moving forward, now we've always had partners of various sizes working in the South, but what it's meant, and part of why I pushed for this as the CEO, comes from the work that I did in community development. And although I like the terminology of impact work, one of the problems in our field writ large is we introduce new titles and think that it's all new. And community development has been here for a long time, and many of the exact same principles, so it's not new. But what we want to do is, and at the core of it is something I'll share with you, and this is really important, and I think one of the first things I did with our team is, and this is going to sound odd, but I said, you know, we shouldn't be banning words and terminology for a lot of reasons. But I said, but we are going to ban the term grantee. Nobody is your grantee, they're your partner. And so that's the attitude that we have everywhere, and very much in the relationships in the South. And so with these partnerships, candidly, what I want to get from it is back to the theme that I said is we're going to learn a lot. And the other word that I brought into the organization is the word proximity, because I said in the South, we've got to get more proximate. We've got to get closer. And that opens up an array of different things that you can do, different forms of leverage, different kinds of initiatives by learning and understanding. So we're not barging in. That's why we didn't have grand announcements, you know, where we were claiming credit for a lot of things. It's to team up with people, and that's what we're after. And one of the things, I'll end with this, that goes with all of the work is make the focus the work, because we might be partially responsible for putting certain things forward. We may not even get the credit. People will write about different things. Your name doesn't get mentioned, but it's okay. You have to move ahead with the work and then smile that you know that you're making a difference. And that's what we're hoping to do. So folks like Cory we've met with, the gentleman that I've hired to oversee our initiative, lives in Arkansas. That was one of the things I said, could we hire somebody of the South to make sure that they're going to oversee this initiative? So where it goes, we don't totally know, but we think it's going to not only produce a body of work in the American South, but my real goal is that it will influence all the rest of our work. Because there's nothing alien, you know, about the South. My father is from South Carolina, and it's just, we're going to learn a lot from the folks there. So, Don, that's why I'm excited about doing it, and we're just getting into it. So I love it. So
excited. I didn't know it was 40%. 40%. That is very impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. And Carla, I know the Kellogg Foundation is very active in the South, and you've done it for a long time, so there's probably a lot of lessons to share.
Sure. So, again, we have a place-based office. We have one in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, and one in New Orleans, Louisiana. We've been in the South for as long as we've been in existence, almost 100 years. And for us, it was, how could we use all of the tools in our toolbox? What is it that we could do to leverage the networks that we have to benefit the South? And so a few years ago, we created a series called ROI of the South, Return on Investment in the South. And we invited folks who represented $100 billion of investable assets to come with us on a journey through the South. We took them to some in-person tours. We had lots of webinars and videos to really talk about what's happening in the South. We brought people who've lived in the South for generations to tell their story around where they see the opportunities and the challenges. And that's led to millions of dollars in investments within our place-based geographies. But we knew that wasn't enough. And so we wanted to think about not only the investable assets, but what are the corporations doing who are looking for new geographies to branch out? And so we started a program a few years ago called Expanding Equity, where we work with Fortune 500 companies to really think about what's the pipeline of talent they're bringing into those organizations. Because if you have folks who work in those organizations who have the lived experience in the communities that you're trying to serve, you have a better shot of being able to really leverage that opportunity. And so we worked with 300 companies, 2,000 people, to really say, let's focus on opportunities in the South, let's focus on new enterprise in the South, and that has led to us having a 96% retention rate of companies who want to invest in the South, who are looking to see Southern expansion across the South, but also thinking about what they can do in order to leverage additional talent and pipelines of young talent so they don't get trapped in that middle manager space, but they get to lead these companies over time. We branded that not only with saying, okay, here's investable assets, here's expanding equity. We didn't want to leave our philanthropic partners aside. So last month, we brought together 30 different philanthropic partners to come to Mississippi and meet with us and talk about what can we do from a philanthropic sector to invest in the South? Where does our work overlap? Where there's opportunities or gaps, who are we talking to? Let's introduce you to the communities that we're serving. You introduce us to who you're serving. Let's figure out how we can leverage the innate talent that's in the South so that they can have the economic stability that they're all desiring. And we're looking forward to continue to think about ways in which we can share funding opportunities, ways in which we can elevate the narrative, ways in which we can influence public policy, ways in which we can have more employee stock ownership programs, ways in which we can support the CDFIs, ways in which we can support small business development, because we know it's going to take all of those tools in order to actually have sustainable change. And so for us, it's not just a drop in the bucket. It's not just, oh, this is what we're doing now in our strategy. This is who we are, which is why we have generational commitments to the places in which we support. And so we want to make sure that in this lifetime, hopefully before I retire, we can see the advancements that we want and that communities can have that agency to be able to be the change makers that they want to make.
I don't think any go ahead, yeah.
You know, one, again, obviously, kudos to Kellogg, because Kellogg is one of a few that's always been there, right? Through thick and thin, through it worked, it didn't work, it stayed, right?
Political upheaval.
Absolutely. So kudos there. But I did want to double tap on part of what's underneath some that Carla is saying, right? You know, we don't pitch investment in the South from a like, woe is me,
No.
and we're so terrible, and we need people to invest in us, right?
No.
Like the assets that are there in every aspect of what people are interested in are real and provable, right? And it is history and culture, but it's not just history and culture. It is infrastructure and agriculture, right? The Delta, the Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas Delta is not some of, right? It is the most fertile piece of property writ large in the region that it's in the whole country, right? I was talking to somebody the other day about the challenges that the Central Valley in California is having with water, right? We don't have that challenge. And people have realized that and will continue to realize it. Again, I'll double tap. We need infrastructure to make sure that when those things start to change, is that we've got the infrastructure to say to folks, absolutely, bring what you need, get what you need, we'll help you, and we're just not going to give it all away, right? So I think that's a point to be made, is that, you know, we're not selling ourselves short, we're not selling ourselves cheap, we're not selling what's there, really for any version of that. And what we're trying to do is build the infrastructure so that as those opportunities come our way, as things are discovered, again, I don't even know what the next lithium thing is, but as it's discovered, we've got the opportunity to hold on to that value and apply it to the communities and the people that are there first before other people profit.
And we'll stay there regardless.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing is there's just so much opportunity, there's a lot of innovation, and it is still under-resourced, but as we continue to do our work, that'll hopefully change.
Yeah.
Great, well, we're getting close to the end of our time, so I'm gonna ask each of you to offer some final words as a call to action or advice to all the people gathered here. So this time I'm gonna start with Ray, and we'll come down the line.
Very briefly, as a closing thought, one of the things that I think is important, whether it's in impact investing or in any of the things that we're doing, is to remember, and a lot of people in this room, you're either chasing resources or you have resources. But regardless of where you sit, it's just remembering that every single person in this world, including the people who, quote, have the resources, needs someone to say yes. And we spend our lives seeking out a yes. In fact, we look at the world, and it's sort of the world as it is, and the world as we would like it to be. And everything that's in the middle is called life. And in that, it's a journey. Impact investing is a journey. And in that journey, you seek a yes. And I remember starting an organization from scratch, and I kept looking and looking and looking. And when I told my team, I said, keep looking until you find the yes. Remember that you need it, and remember that somebody else needs it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Cory.
So we need a yes. So I'll pick up. I appreciate that.
I remember that. You're
Absolutely.
applying for money?
We appreciate that, right? I talked about us raising $50 million to invest in enterprise-level investments in the nonprofit infrastructure in Arkansas, particularly the advocacy and organizing. I got one, to quote Surdna, and I need 49 more, right?
Champions mindset.
So we need a yes there. Here's a challenge, I think, for this group specifically. And again, I appreciate Matt inviting me. This is not my normal place. Our CFO is here, so I'm a little bit of an amateur economist. But the markets are soaring, right? So if you have the resources to be in the market, you've done really well over the last year, give or take, right? And that's up against our communities where things are falling apart, where people don't have the resources that they need, where the federal government has pulled back just about everything that's important. And so my challenge to this group, and I'm included in that in terms of the philanthropic place, is to take a chunk of what we've got, 16, 17, 18% over the last year, depending upon which index you're talking about, is take a chunk of that and put it back into our partners. Take a chunk of that and put it back into your MRIs, put it back into your PRIs, and don't wait for the 3-year rolling average, right? Like, don't wait, like, do it now, because the people need it now. And I think that's one of the things that we can do in the moment. Arkansas is the only place in the world where there's a public, free diamond mine, okay? So if you come visit, it's Murfreesboro, Arkansas. There's a state park there. It's got a diamond mine there. Every year, 600 to 700 diamonds are found in that park. It's free to go in, but you got to get there. It's not easy to get to. You got to buy a couple things, like you got to buy the little panning thing, and you want a shovel, and maybe you want some gloves. So you got to buy a couple things. And if you're smart, there are people that go there all the time that you can ask and say, hey, can you show me how to find the diamonds, right? That's what Arkansas is. That's what the South is. We've got hundreds and thousands of businesses and communities that need the investment, but people have to be willing to get there, make a little bit of investment in the tools, meet the people that can show you the when, the where, the how, and then take the time to find the diamonds. So that's an invitation to the South, that's an invitation to Arkansas, and if you want to go to Murfreesboro, we'll make sure you get there too.
Hear, hear.
We talk a lot about patient capital, but being impatient. And one of the things that we're always mindful about at the foundation is that patient means it's not tied to the latest strategy. It's not tied to the latest chaotic moment. It's about longevity. It's around staying the course, generation over generation. It's around understanding the ethos of the communities that you're serving, having them feel full agency in deciding what they want for their future. And sometimes it doesn't align with what you feel you need to do as an organization or a philanthropy. And that's okay, because the more in which folks are empowered using their lived experience to say and decide what they want and how they want it, the better off we will be. And so in my thinking around closing this conversation is, how can we be better partners? How can we use our networks and our leverage for introductions? How can we amplify the lived experience in the South? How can we talk about the wonderful things that are happening in the South? And it's not just about the history, but it's around what's currently happening. How can we think about the ways in which technology is going to impact the South, and that the South is prepared for all of those new industries because they had a say in the co-creation of what's coming? And for us, it's around making sure that at every point in time, you're opening up doors to capital. You're not thinking about it as a risky proposition, because I don't understand how we can say women, communities of color are risky, investable opportunities when we generate so much wealth for corporate America and the world. And so by reclaiming that narrative and really talking about what can really happen if you have opportunity, if you have longevity, if you think about it from the best possible circumstances, that's what I invite you all to do. As you're doing your due diligence, ask the question, do we really need to do this in order to get to a yes? What's stopping us from getting to a yes? Do we need to have multiple rounds of conversations? Because to be honest, the multiple rounds of conversations are not going to tell you whether or not this is going to be a good return or not. It's really around listening to folks to see where their desires are going, because if you follow those desires, you'll see the outcome and the return, and then you can reinvest. And so my hope for you is that you let go of all of the biases, all of the predetermined boxes that we operate in, and really create an open environment for the conversations, and think of risk as a great thing rather than something for you not to do. And so I hope that you'll join us as we practice that muscle, because I don't say we have it correct, but as we develop that muscle, hold us accountable. We're gonna hold you accountable. But most important, let's think about how we can come together to make the change, because if not us, then who?
Thank you. Well, there is so much wisdom on this panel. We can talk more and draw some more wisdom, but we're gonna come to a close, and I'll just offer a couple things. I was having lunch with Damon Hewitt, who's the CEO of Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, and he said something to me that really has stuck with me, and that is, in this environment, it's a tough environment. A lot of our democratic institutions are under attack. Many things are extremely challenging, and what he told me was, yes, we need to fight back, we need to protect. At the same time, we need to fight forward. Mm-hmm. We need to set the agenda, we need to go on offense, we need to think about the future and really prepare for that in a proactive way. And so I've taken that to heart. And the question comes back to me all the time, how can we be best prepared to do that? Now, Serena Williams is someone who can win championships all by herself. But the reality is, if you ever watch her interviews and read about her, she has an incredible team. Mm-hmm. And the incredible team, it's, she had one with her tennis career, and she has an incredible team, with Serena Ventures as well, and that's going to keep compounding. And so, and when I think about the Mission Investors Exchange Conference, I prioritize coming to this conference every year because I know this is where we're going to find our people. Mm-hmm. This is where we take the organizations that we're associated with. Like for me, it's President's Council on Impact Investing, the U.S. Impact Investing Alliance, Living Cities, lots of other groups. Our advisors, Cambridge Associates, are here as well. So this is the place to come and see people face to face, collaborate, build trust, build relationships. And so I hope all of you find your people in the couple days that we spend together. Let's thank our panelists one more time. Thank you guys so much. And with that, I'm handing it off to another person who I think is that, okay, come on up.
Welcome, Melanie Audette, Senior Vice President, Member Experience and Partnerships, Mission Investors Exchange.
Are you inspired yet? I'm inspired. 20 years, MIE. Here we are. My message is really one of gratitude. Gratitude. Carla, wow, that interview with Serena Williams, is that something you will always remember? Let's act on it. And Don, the panel with Ray and with Cory, like this is just the beginning of our story here at the MIE conference. And so what is the story you will be telling when you leave here? What will you do? We'll see. My message is one of gratitude, and it's gratitude for Atlanta. Atlanta, thank you. We're finally here. If you were on the host committee for this event, please clap so we can clap for you. Let us know where you are. Thank you. Let's give Atlanta a hand. The story has already started for us. We had baseball game yesterday. Sorry, Philly. The Braves, they took it away yesterday. We were out in the city today. We've got stories from Ponce City Market, and there are more to come. And I want to thank all of our board members and everyone who's a part of this event. We heard that there are 600 team members on the Signia Hilton team. Well, there are almost 800 of us. We really have them outnumbered. So we need to thank them in advance for the nourishment that they will give us, for the care that they will give us, because we know that it takes every member of the team to give us the energy to spark the ideas and the conversations that you will be able to take back home and put into action. So you're probably wondering, what's next? So I'm standing in between you and a wonderful reception out on the Magnolia lawn. So when we're finished here, you'll leave this room, turn left, go down the escalators, and you'll find a wonderful reception. So you can begin to build these relationships that you can put into action here. It's not just about this conference, but it's about those relationships and the community that we can build here at MIE. We'll be back in this room tomorrow morning, starting at 7 a.m. And we have a third floor where you'll find breakout sessions and workshops tomorrow. And we just want to thank you for being here, taking the time out of your day. Build a community, let's go forth and tell our own story. So thank you, and we will see you at the reception, at your dine-arounds. If you haven't signed up for one yet, there still are some slots. And we're thankful to the host that will host you at the dine-arounds tonight.